Hi folks, Sty North here. It's story time with akdriller again. AK went and posted up another story time, and so this is my story time response. His story time this time is, have you ever hitchhiked? And before I get started on my story, it's too bad it wasn't an animal encounter story, because I just had one. I pulled in here. It's like a wayside area along the shoreline of Lake Superior, and I just parked, figured I'll throw a video out on, being I saw AK posted that story time. And I was just getting set up, and I started working on the video, and I felt something on my shoe, and I looked down to see what was going on, and what if something was dripping off of the dashboard or something, which I doubt. I looked down, and here's a big fat old mouse climbing up my shoe, and he was just getting on my sock on my ankle, and he was headed up my pant leg. And when he realized that I realized he was there, he took a nosedive under the seat. Well, I wasn't about to keep making the video with a mouse terrorizing me in the truck, so I shut the video down, and I got out of the truck, and I started looking around under the seat, and fortunately he didn't head to the back, because the back seat's full of tarps and other gear, and I thought, oh boy, he gets under that stuff, I'll never find him. Well, I found him, and I found my son's got a pair of gloves here in the truck, so I grabbed his gloves, and I cornered him, and I grabbed him, and I pitched him out of the truck. So he's off running around out here somewhere, but he's not in the truck anymore, and hopefully he doesn't have any family members in here. This time of year, you'll get that they start getting real active, and up here at least, we'll find them buggers in our vehicles, and they can get in anywhere. So I had a mouse encounter. So let's get on to the story. Have I ever hitchhiked? Oh my Lord. If I were to do just a hitchhiking video, it'd probably be about 6 hours long. From the time I was about 12 years old until I was, 15, when I got my first car. I got my first car when I was 15. No license or anything, but I managed to get myself a car. And once I had a car, there was no more hitchhiking. But between 12 and 15 years old, I hitchhiked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. Not real long hitchhiking trips. I think the longest one I would typically do, and I do it probably 3-4 times a month, was I would hitchhike to a girlfriend's house, and she lived about 18 miles from us. Excuse me. And I'd put the old thumb out, and hitchhike up to her place and visit there, and then hitchhike home again. So I have about 36 to 40 miles of hitchhiking if I wanted to go up and see my girlfriend. And she was a nice girl. She was worth the hitchhike. But I did a lot of hitchhiking. That's just the fact of the matter, is I hitchhiked all over the place. And I lived about 35 miles outside of Minneapolis, on the edge of the suburbs. And there were a few times that I hitchhiked into downtown Minneapolis. Now, I want everybody to know, and especially the young people out there watching this video, don't do that. Not this day and age. Back when I was hitchhiking, it was risky enough then. To do it today, it's just foolishness. No way. There, if you don't know somebody with a vehicle that can give you a ride to where you want to go, then you really don't need to go. But hitchhiking in its day, you know, that was a big deal back then. In the late 60s, early 70s. That's how you got around. If you didn't own a car, boy, put the thumb out. Well, so because I hitchhiked so much, I wouldn't know which hitchhiking story to tell. So I'm going way back. Now, this is a hitchhiking story that nobody, no kid out there, I don't want them copying me, thinking, well, old Sty did it, that should be okay. No, it's not okay. Here we go. My mother was and is a very strict church-going lady. Well, the church we attended back then, they were affiliated with a church that was about 20 miles, maybe 15 to 20 miles away from our hometown. And the church they were affiliated with was having a summer Bible school thing for kids. Well, my mom thought it was a great idea that us kids go to that Bible school. Well, I was only 6 years old at the time. And my pop, he was the chief of police. He loaded all 4 of us kids up in the squad car and gave us a ride to that church 15, 20 miles away and dropped us off at that church. And we're supposed to be there all day, and then he'd pick us up at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, first day at that Bible school thing, they drop us off, and I was too independent for that stuff. I looked around, I said, I don't like this. All these screaming kids and stuff, you know. I was 6 years old, but I thought I was 35, you know. So I said I had enough. I kept telling my brother and my 2 sisters, I don't like it here. I want to go home. I want to go home. And they said, well, you can't go home. Dad's not going to pick us up till 4 o'clock. And he dropped us off there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's 6 hours at that place. I wasn't going to spend 6 hours there. And they wouldn't listen to me. I kept telling them I want to go home. And they said, you're not going home unless you walk. I said, well, I will. And they thought, well, that little brat, he's just, you know, he's just playing tough, you know. Well, lo and behold, the minute they turned their backs, boom, I was out of there. I knew how to get back home. I paid attention. I knew what roads we took to get there. So I started walking home. Well, I passed this young man, and he was out there, and he's got his thumb out, and he's hitchhiking. And I stopped, and I talked to him. And I said, can I hitchhike with you? And he said, well, where are you going? And I told him where I was going. And he says, well, you're in luck. I'm going to within about a mile of there. So, sure. So here, a complete stranger that was probably about, in his very late teens, maybe early 20s. And I'm hitchhiking with this guy. And it took 3 rides. We had to take 3 different rides from folks to get me within about a mile of my house. And then from there, I walked along these railroad tracks to the house. Well, when I'm walking along them railroad tracks, what do I see? I didn't realize how much time it took us to hitchhike that far. What do I see? I see my dad's squad car pulling into our driveway, because the railroad tracks were within about 3-4 city blocks from the house, and I could see the house, and I saw the squad pull in the yard, and there my sisters and my brother get out of the squad. He had gone and picked them up, so it had to be after 4 o'clock, and I'm not there with them. They get out of the car, and I see my dad get out, and he's got the mic in his hand, and he's talking to the dispatcher on the radio. Well, he's putting out an APB on me. You know, where'd this kid go? He's going to have every cop in the neighboring 3 towns looking for me. Well, I figured I better get over there and explain myself real quick, or else he's going to be sending out the National Guard. Oh boy, yeah, Sty got in trouble that day. Yeah, he left church and he almost got to meet his maker for doing it. Well, I didn't hitchhike until I was 12 years old again after that, so it was about 6 years later before I stuck my thumb back out again. And I heard the whole thing. Now, back then, you know, in the early 1960s, even then, my dad, boy, he chewed me out. He gave me the whole story as to why you do not hitchhike. Worked out good for me. I got home all right. And I had an adventure, and I didn't have to sit in that church all day with all them kids I didn't know. So there you go. Sty just getting in trouble again. Have I ever hitchhiked? Oh, yeah, I hitchhiked. So thanks, AK, for doing another story time. We love them. Keep them coming. It's a great way for the community to share, and I hope more people jump on. So for now, this is Sty North saying, you all have a very nice day. Bye-bye. And that mouse better have gone home, not this home. Find a new place, not up my leg. See ya, folks.